My name is Jeff Martin, and I'm a teaching pastor here part-time at Rock Creek Church. And I got my setup again. For those of you who don't know, I'm still kind of recovering from some surgery and some other things going on in my life. So I need help. We all need help. I need particular help this morning in that way. We are in a series called Sent Together, which is, I guess, predictable based upon that big banner over there. That's what we'll be talking about together. For those of you who do not have quite yet grabbed one of these on the back table, we have bookmarks that kind of help you know where we are in this series. We're specifically talking about being sent together. We spent the first 2 weeks talking about being sent from love, meaning that God so loved the world that he gave, and so we go because of God's love for us. And last week, we talked about being sent as ambassadors, and Divi unpacked John 20 for us very beautifully. It was a great sermon, and today we are still in sent as ambassadors, and we're going to a passage that actually says ambassadors in it. And as you see, we'll be moving along in this series for the next 6 weeks or so. There are also notebooks. I think, are there some still in the back, or are we done? There might be some still back there. But we had notebooks for you to be able to pick up and take notes as well. So we invite you to take these. But we printed them for you, for us to use. So with that, let me go to God in prayer for our time in his word. God, what we are endeavoring to do as a church is not a natural thing. It's not something that we can do in our own power. We won't be motivated to do it. It's not something that we can just sort of manufacture and plan and read about and execute and do. This is a spiritual endeavor, Lord. This is you taking initiative to reach out. And we need the power of your Holy Spirit. So I pray even this morning, as we go to your word, that you would show us, corporately and individually, who you are. And who we are in light of who you are. I pray in Christ's name. Amen. I'm going to read the passage first. We're in 2 Corinthians 5, verses 15 to 21. And I think in fact, I do have them on the screen, so I will read them as we go through them. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 16 begins this way. From now on, therefore, we regard no one according to the flesh. Even though we once regarded Christ according to the flesh, we regard him thus no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. All this is from God, who through Christ reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Christ, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you, on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. For our sake, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Mary and our family will be heading down to North Myrtle Beach for vacation in October. We've done so last several years, and we'll have our kids and our grandkids, and I think my dad with us as well. Now, when we go, our perspective is that of a tourist. We judge our days by how much sun we have, how much rain we don't have, the comfort of our oceanfront resort. We see this booming playground designed for our relaxation. If the restaurant line is too long or the air conditioning breaks at the hotel, we're not going to be happy. We're going to get frustrated because our entire relationship with North Myrtle Beach, with the city, revolves around our own convenience and our own satisfaction. In fact, if we don't have a great time, we may never go back. But imagine walking those same streets, not as a vacationer, but as someone sent on a mission to address the city's human and healthcare needs. While we're looking at the beach, the community worker sees the quiet year-round struggles happening just a few blocks inland. While tourists are seeking stress relief on golf courses, a relief worker sees that mental health services and substance abuse counseling consistently ranks as the region's #1 unmet healthcare need. While visitors see the charming retirement haven, a community worker sees elderly residents living far from extended family who desperately need in-home care, specialized social services, and help navigating the rising costs of health care. While vacationers enjoy resort amenities, and outreach workers assisting the uninsured hospitality staff who cannot afford basic primary care, they see the reality of housing insecurity and the heavy reliance on emergency shelters. We're looking at a jacuzzi. Two different perspectives. Too often, modern Christians like us live as spiritual tourists. We treat our neighborhoods, our cities, as places designed for our convenience. We complain when the trash is not picked up on time. We get all out of place when our favorite restaurant closes down. So oftentimes, we fail to see the brokenness around us because we're too busy taking care of our own stuff. And so this morning, I have a message, big idea, based on this passage in this way. Because God reconciled us to himself through Christ, we're not spiritual tourists. We are active representatives of the King. Now, how do we make a shift from thinking like a tourist to thinking as an active representative of the King? I'm glad you asked. Because I think the Apostle Paul reveals 3 transformations in this passage that take place when we embrace our identity in Christ as ambassadors. It's all about an ambassador this morning. What's the nature of an ambassador? First, an ambassador adopts a new perspective. An ambassador has a different perspective. Let's read this once more in this passage in verse 16 and 17. From now on, therefore, we regard no one according to the flesh. Even though we once regarded Christ according to the flesh, we regard him thus no longer. Therefore, if anyone's in Christ, he's a new creation. The old is past, behold, new has come. In the flesh, according to the flesh. Now, this isn't just your physical skin. It represents the worldly, unspiritual, broken way of evaluating the worth of people. To look at someone according to the flesh means to measure them by human standards, by their bank account, by their education, by their emotional intelligence, by their race, by what they can do to advance my personal agenda. That's how we can look at people, their usefulness to me. Paul himself even confesses that he used to do this. Before his conversion on the Damascus Road, Paul was a Pharisee of Pharisees, man. He was an elite person. He looked at Jesus according to the flesh. He just saw him as some poor, crucified carpenter, misguided Jewish leader. A failed rebel who was cursed and hung on a tree. Paul used to look at Gentiles, and by the way, Gentiles is everyone that's not Jewish. In the Bible, there are 2 people groups, Jews and non-Jews. Paul looked at Gentiles as unclean. They weren't part of the Jewish people. They didn't have the law. They were just unclean outcasts who were beneath him. Wouldn't spend any time with Gentiles. But encountering the risen Jesus totally shattered his lens forever. So when Paul says new creation, he's invoking the language of Genesis, by the way, and the prophet Isaiah. So becoming a Christian is not turning over some new leaf. It's not like a New Year's resolution. It's not a self-improvement program. It's not a moral reboot. It is a fundamental shift in your personhood. The Spirit of God does a new Genesis in the human heart. The old way of thinking, the old sin and flesh and death has passed away. The new age has come, it's dawned. So a representative of the King can no longer look at people through the shallow categories of this world. The cross shatters our worldly prejudices and tribalisms. I was speaking with a new friend of mine who shared how he came to know Jesus. He was youth at a retreat. Not an uncommon thing. And he noticed at the retreat that there was a boy that was really a bully. He was picking on the other kids, including him, my friend. He was causing all kinds of disturbances. He wasn't listening to anything that anybody was saying. He wasn't really part of the group. And my friend, at one night, while the pastor was teaching on Jesus and grace, he understood for the first time what Christ had done for him. And in that moment, he prayed and he received Christ. He received that grace. And within moments, God stirred his spirit and he saw that boy in the corner, that bully. And in moments of receiving Christ, he walked over to that bully. And he put his hand on that bully and he began to pray for him. And before he knew it, he said, dozens of students came over, similarly, to embrace this young rebel boy. When God reconciles us to himself, we become reconcilers. We see people differently. We ought to see people differently. Everything should change for us. If we're to be a church that's trusting God to multiply diverse communities of people, we have to stop looking at our neighbors according to the flesh. We can't look, or you can't look. I don't drink coffee, okay? So you can't look at your barista who's making your coffee the same way. Or the frustrated coworker you have in the cubicle next to you in the same way. Or the person that cuts you off in traffic on the beltway. Or that family member who annoys you. You can't look at them the same way. They're not background characters in the movie of our life. I feel that a lot. Do you ever feel that way? Like you walk through life, you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you're doing your stuff, and everybody's just sort of in the background. Because I got stuff to do. I got places to go. An ambassador of Christ views every single person through the lens of eternity. You begin to look at people and realize this person is an immortal soul. They're either a miraculous new creation in Christ or they're in desperate need of becoming one. So a question as I close this section, who in your life have you been viewing according to the flesh? That God is calling you to view through the lens of his mission. I should add this. Yesterday while I was preparing this message, this very point, I was in a restaurant with a familiar waiter. And the Lord's like, you're not continuing your message right now. And I had a great 20-minute conversation with this young man who I pray will come one day here. So, an ambassador adopts a new perspective, but an ambassador also delivers a specific message, not just a new perspective, but we have a specific message. Oh, this point is hard to take. Sorry. It's not easy. All this is from God, who through Christ reconciled us to himself, and he gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Christ, This is unbelievable. In Christ, God himself was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to who? Come on now. He's entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. Are you out of your mind, God? Have you lost your stuff? What is happening here? How can you have the greatest message in the world ever, and you say we're going to trust it to us? Delivers a specific message. Listen, the concept of reconciliation implies a prior state of war. We were not just wandering sheep that needed directions. We were at war with God, rebels, enemies of the king. Yet notice who initiates this peace process: God. All this is from God. See, God didn't wait for us to wave a white flag and say, yeah, we're done. He crossed enemy lines, and he brokered peace through the blood of his son. And Paul says he did this by not counting their trespasses against them. All the accountants in the room, pay attention. Or those of you that like ledger or numbers. This word counting means to calculate, impute, or log into a ledger. Not counting their trespasses against them. Imagine a cosmic ledger containing every sin you've ever committed, every selfish thought, every moment you lived as a spiritual tourist instead of a servant. All of it in a ledger. That's a big ledger. Through Christ, God took an eraser to that ledger. He wiped the debt clean. And then, he miraculously entrusts us with this message of reconciliation. John Piper has something interesting here. He reminds us that the best news of the gospel isn't just that our sins are forgiven or that we escape hell or even that we get a mansion in heaven. The absolute best news of the gospel is that we get God. Right? If you were not reconciled, that means you were not reconciled to a person. And that person is God himself, because God is the gospel. Reconciliation is the restoration of a relationship. It's getting the Father back. When God entrusts us with the message of reconciliation, he invites us to offer our neighbors the greatest treasure in the entire universe, communion with the Creator himself. I have asked this question before. Can I recommend a question for you? I'm going to recommend this question. It takes people off guard, but the answer is pretty consistent. I ask often people that I meet, if you could know God, would you be interested? Ask a person, if you could know God, if it was possible to know God, would you be interested? Now, I dare say, I've asked that question a lot. And guess what the answer 95% of the time is? It's yes. I would. If God were knowable, why wouldn't I want to know God? It's just that they don't know who God is. We're not just inviting people to a religious club. We're inviting them to a king's banquet table. Because this message is entrusted to us, it highlights what an ambassador is not. Let's talk about what an ambassador is not. An ambassador is not a freelance philosopher. An ambassador is not an independent policymaker. An ambassador is not a public relations manager. Imagine an ambassador sent by a king, check this out, to deliver terms of peace to a rebellious province. Okay? So we send the ambassador, and the king gives the terms of peace. But the ambassador desperately wants to be liked by the rebel leaders. So instead of reading the king's actual terms, which require the rebels to lay down their arms and pledge allegiance to the crown, the ambassador decides to change the message a little bit. He edits the treaty on the fly. He turns the king's absolute demands into a casual, polite suggestion so the rebels won't be offended. So what happens? The ambassador might win their temporary friendship, but he fails his king, does he not? That's okay. It might be God calling. So the ambassador, he's tempted to water it down because it's like, I'm not sure that they're going to accept the king's message. Guess what happens, though? He could win their temporary friendship, right? Because he's acting on his own. But he's utterly failing the king, is he not? Worse yet, he leaves the rebels in a state of delusion, thinking they are safe when they're actually still at war with the crown. Are you catching where I'm headed? As an ambassador does not have the authority to invent, edit, soften the message. They are a faithful courier of the sovereign's exact words. Now hear me. I am not saying you deliver the message in a manner that is inconsistent with the king, who is full of grace and truth. But the king is full of grace and truth. The truth is what sets you free. Many of us are terrified of evangelism because we think we have to be spiritual experts, we have to be theological debaters, or we have to be defense attorneys for God somehow. We worry we won't have all the answers, but you are an ambassador. You don't have to negotiate the terms of salvation or write the peace treaty. You simply deliver the king's message. Your job isn't to clean people up. Your job is to hand them the peace treaty signed in the blood of Jesus and invite them to enjoy the king. We can freely and boldly offer grace to our neighbors because God is the one who did the heavy lifting of reconciliation. Have you been altering the king's message to fit in with your neighbors? To make you feel a little bit like, yeah, the message is rough, but God is cool. And we're cool, aren't we? Or are you faithfully handling the treaty of grace and truth? Third, the ambassador adopts a new perspective. He delivers a specific message, and he carries the king's authority. He carries the king's authority. Look at me with verse 20 and 21. This ambassador carries the king's authority. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. For our sake, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. What an incredible verse. What an incredible verse. Paul reaches the climax of what he's saying in verse 20. Therefore, we are ambassadors. Now stop and marvel at the paradox of this sentence. God making his appeal through us. The Greek word for appeal is implore. It carries a sense of deep emotional pleading. The sovereign creator of the galaxies, the holy God who spoke light into existence, he humbles himself and he's pleading and begging with human traitors to come home. And this means he chooses to voice this divine pleading. And the means he chooses to voice his divine pleading is us, the church. This is crazy. How can flawed, failing, anxious people like us represent a perfect and holy king? If we're honest, our sin and our hypocrisy make us feel entirely disqualified from the mission. Because here's the thing. You and I both think this. You and I think, well, we're not really worthy to talk to this person about God. And if you think that and you say that, that's true. Because your worthiness isn't in you. We talk about this all the time. It's in Christ. This is the solution in verse 21. One of the greatest, most concentrated summaries of the gospel in the entire Bible. Look at verse 21. For our sake, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. This is the bedrock of our authority as Christians. The late theologian R.C. Sproul beautifully explains this. Many people do. Call it double imputation. That is a very spiritual word. Double imputation. Here it is. You want to know what it is? It's imputation in two different directions, because that's what this teaches. There's a two-way transaction that takes place. First, our sin is imputed to Christ. Jesus did not internally become a sinner. Let's be careful about that. But he was legally treated by the Father as if he had lived our rebellious, consumer-driven lives. He bore the full, unmitigated wrath of God that our ledger deserves. Oh, how that ought to hit us. Imputation. We just sing about it. He's taken all of your sin. If you're in Christ this morning, all of it. All of it's on the cross. You'll never bear any of it all the time. So let's not stay in prison if you're free. Get up. The chains have been cut off. I forgot where I was. He bore the full unmitigated wrath that our ledger deserved. He took all of our sin. But the great exchange doesn't stop there. If Jesus only took our sin, we'd be sort of a neutral blank slate. Right? We need the positive righteousness to enter the kingdom. Therefore, Christ's perfect righteousness, his 33 years of flawless obedience to the Father, was transferred or imputed to us. Sproul calls it like this: we're saved by an alien righteousness. I love that terminology. We're saved, we're rescued by an alien righteousness, a righteousness that is not our own. It's alien to us, but belongs properly to Christ. So when the Father looks at you, he doesn't see your failures, he sees the perfect record of his Son. This is crazy. Why does God do this? It's unbelievable. In international law, there's a fascinating concept regarding embassies. And you can't take this illustration too far. So I'll try to take it as far as it'll allow me. And if I took it too far, you could, in response time, you can say, you took that too far. And I'll probably say, you're right. An embassy is considered the sovereign territory of the home nation. Is it not supposed to be? Let's say in an ideal world. And when you step through the security gates, let's say if you're a U.S. citizen and you're someplace else in the world, when you step through those security gates, which we've done so in another country, you're legally stepping into U.S. soil. It's like, it's a U.S. outpost. It's the U.S. Imagine a crisis or political revolution breaks out in the streets while you're there. There's chaos out there in the streets, but the ambassador inside operates under the absolute authority and protection of whatever home government they have. They're not isolated individuals. And when that ambassador speaks, he speaks from the full economic, political, full military weight of that country that he stands behind. Here's the point I'm making. The only reason you and I are qualified to be ambassadors of the gospel is because the great exchange in verse 21. Christ bore your sin. He wore it. And you get to wear his royal robes. You carry the king's authority because you have been given the king's perfect record. You have authority. Don't let anyone tell you that you do not have the authority to tell someone about Jesus. Does not the Great Commission say, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, therefore go? When you leave Bayard Rustin today, you're not leaving as a spiritual tourist returning to your normal, convenient life, let's say. You're leaving as an official emissary of the kingdom of heaven. Because God reconciled you to himself, you're sent to your workplaces, your neighborhoods, your families, with the full backing, authority, and the presence of Jesus. We aren't just a congregation meeting in a school. We're a community of sent ones. So let's put an end to the era of consumer Christianity, selfishly thinking of our own lives, but let's lay down our spiritual tourism. And let's step boldly into the world today as active representatives of the King. I'm going to pray and then see if there's a response this morning. Lord God, on the one hand, there's a heaviness to this passage. But I pray, God, that we would see the lightness of this passage. We would see the freedom of this passage. We would see the joy of this passage. That you've shown us truth and grace. That we're free people. And in that freedom, you enlist us to go tell others that freedom can be only found in Jesus. I don't know who those people are as we interact today and tomorrow. But I thank you, God, that those of us in this room have come to Christ. There was somebody in our life. There was somebody in our life that was willing to talk about the King. And for me, as I shared with Mary the other day, I think of Roger Wilkin, who's with you now. But he was a man working for AT&T in his 40s, lost his 7-year-old son to cancer, gave up that career, joined the ministry of Young Life, raised financial support, and walked around in basements where I grew up with kids with a big smile on his face, talking about Jesus. And what captivated me was a man who smiled because his life had been transformed by his King. Oh God, as we leave this place, give us the joy of the Lord, so that people, when they encounter us, can explain the joy, the thanksgiving, the thankfulness that we have, because we've been changed by our King forever. Send us out, Lord. Send us out together. In Jesus' name, amen.